Hello, just a quick word about a few tools. Obviously I have here a range of chisels. I'll put some links down below into the different brands and which sizes might be most useful for a beginner. You'll need some hard pencils. These are 9H because obviously drawing on stone is like drawing on sandpaper, so a softer pencil would wear down very quickly. Also generally have 4H and some white pencils which are very good for dark stone like slate. Decent steel ruler. This is just a big graphite stick for making the rubbings like you saw in one of the earlier videos. A cork block to go with your abrasive paper. A roller for rolling down designs onto the stone. Your dummy. I'll talk about the brands and suppliers of all of these. And close-up glasses, safety glasses. This is slate oil for finishing after carving on a piece of slate. I'll talk about that in a later video. Some masking tape. But the main thing I really want to talk about is the easel. So this is one of my two easels. It's just made of pieces of 3x2 pine screwed together, a couple of bolts through the main joints, and with a movable bar. This is on screws with wing nuts on the back, so you can move the bar up and down depending on the size of your piece of stone. I needed to put a heavier piece of stone than usual on there, so I screwed some extra bits of timber on the back just to stiffen it up. If you're working on a big piece of stone, it will just fit, it'll just sit on there. For smaller pieces I tend to have a board which I screw onto the middle bar, and then that saves it from falling through the holes, and you can work up against the stop on the end. Sometimes you see people with even fairly small pieces of stone, but sometimes on bigger pieces with a strap around, covering across the front of the stone and around the back, just to make sure that the stone doesn't fall off. I find that with the easel tilted over at about 15 degrees, nothing falls off anyway, so I'm quite happy just using gravity to hold the stone in place. I'm going to show you a slightly different technique for carving. Previously I've said that there are two kinds of cut, chopping and chasing, but you can cut a letter just by chopping. Normally when we chop and chase into the bottom of the cut, the corner is measured at roughly 90 degrees, a little bit more than 90 degrees to allow a little bit of clearance from the chisel. But you can cut deeper than that so that the angle in the bottom is less than 90 degrees. It's a very deep, what you might call a tight cut. But you can't use the corner of the chisel in the same way because the side of the chisel and the face would bind on the cut. So you have to just chop and go all the way in fairly steeply, down to about 75 degrees instead of 90. But you can't then chase very easily without the corner of the chisel bruising the opposite side of the cut. So you just do all the chopping, but you're left with tiny little triangles of stone right in the bottom. But with small, careful cuts, you can get those down to a really small size so that they're not too intrusive. Let's make a start. Starts off just with the center line as usual. Fairly broad chisel because it's quite a big character. I'll just show you the technique on this one broad stroke first of all, but it applies to the whole letter. So chopping. There's quite a lot of stone to get rid of here, so I'll do it in several passes. The stone is moving around a little bit, so I'm going to put a clamp on there just to hold it in place. These quick release clamps are very good just for holding a piece of stone steady, holding things down. I'm chopping nearer to the line now, and I've brought the chisel around so that I'm cutting more deeply. When I've done a bit more of this cutting, I'll do a couple of close-up photographs so you can see the inside of the cut in a little bit more detail. So in the bottom of the cut now, there are these little triangles left now in between the strokes of the chisel, individual cuts. As you move along to the next one, you leave a little bit behind that's raised up from the center of the V. I now need to, in the same way as a chasing cut would, clean up the inside of the V cut. This time I'll just carry on chopping, but I'll do it in finer strokes, moving forward less distance each time, just to get rid of those triangular pieces of waste in the bottom. And why do this, you say? Two reasons. The deeper the cut and the tighter the angle in the bottom, the more contrast you can get when the light shines across the face of the letter, because it's deeper and you get a deeper shadow in the bottom. Also, it's just another style. It's just another way of cutting your letters. Looks slightly different to a chopped and chased cut. And sometimes you'll see this on modern headstones in graveyards and churchyards. So you can see the small triangles of waste left in the bottom of the cut there, but from the perspective of standing back and looking at the whole letter, they're really small. Each of those little rough pieces is about 1 millimeter across, so they really don't intrude too much when you look at the whole letter. For a guide to size, the little triangular terminal plane on the left-hand side of the main stroke of the B is about 3 millimeters across. So those little dots of waste in the bottom are really quite small. So there it is. Let me just put that in place with a couple of books. Then we have yet another bookend. I'll put that in the shop shortly. So far in these videos I've been carving on Highmore limestone and Hopton wood limestone, but also use Welsh purple slate and black slate. So next time I'll talk about the different kinds of stone and how they work.